This is the public access writing contest results video. My name is Jason Cordova. I am the creator of the public access analog horror role-playing game, and I am joined by our judges, who I will introduce in a moment, or have them introduce themselves in a moment. I do want to say what this is, though. So we recently held a writing contest for the public access game. The writing contest had two different entry tracks. One was Odyssey tapes and one was mysteries. If you're watching this video, we're going to assume you know what public access is. I'm not going to go through a detailed description of what Odyssey tapes and stuff are. So if you're here, we assume you're in the program with us. But we had two entry tracks, Odyssey tapes and mysteries, and we have read them all, and we are ready to talk about the contest generally, and then we're going to talk about each of the entry tracks separately. We'll have a section where we'll talk about the Odyssey tapes and a section where we'll talk about the mysteries. We are in each section going to have some different picks. So we have a winner and runner up for each track. And so that's what we'll ultimately be leading up to when we're talking about those entries. But we are also doing some spotlight picks. So each of the judges has chosen a spotlight Odyssey tape and a spotlight mystery. I have chosen a spotlight Odyssey tape as the creator. I'm calling it the creator spotlight, as well as two mysteries I want to highlight for creator spotlight. So we are going to dive into all of that in just a moment. But first, let's meet our judges who were so kind enough to give us their time to do this. So we're really excited. Let's start with Mads.
Hi, I'm Mads, she, they. I have, excuse me, I had been a judge for the Brindlewood Bay writing contest last year, and that was a wonderful experience as well. A lot of great writing for this particular contest. And, I guess my bio stuff is my mystery, Have Yourself a Merry Little Murder, appears in Nephews in Peril supplement for Brindlewood Bay. And I also have I've also appeared in Jason Cordova's actual plays under the Shadow Society playlist for The Between, Trophy, Brindlewood Bay, probably and Cthulhu Dark. And I also have my own YouTube channel, Madeline Colley, that I do some actual play stuff as well for The Between, Trophy, Paranormal Incorporated, and Morkborg, among other things. So
Fabulous. Thank you so much. Ollie.
Hi, yeah, I'm Ollie Jeffrey, he, they. I am a games designer. You might know me from Quietus or the upcoming Carl from Brindlewood game Arkham Herald, which I'm doing with the Gauntlet, which is 70s news reporters meets Cthulhu. Looking forward to that. Yeah, I think that's me.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And finally, Alex.
Hi, I'm Alex Rubitsky. I am a few things. I am the co-host of the Dark and Threshold podcast alongside Jason here, where we talk about these games and their design. I am also written for public access, the mysteries Zagreus and the Whisper, as well as the King and Shadows threat for The Between. I am very excited to be here.
I've remembered the third thing I was going to say now, which is that I think I've been a play example in every Carl from
You
Brindlewood
have
game.
been,
So.
yes.
Every game
running
features
thing.
Ollie.
Yep.
And I'm also on Brindlewood Bay, The Ninth Step, and Signals from the Other Side for public access. So
Fabulous. Thank you. That's great. Yeah, the example things, I have to do it now, like every time. There has to be an Ollie. Ollie's character does this, and they usually die horribly, and then they get rescued. Yeah. Fabulous. Okay, so let's talk about the contest. This is probably the fifth contest or so like this that we've run. We've done them for Trophy Dark, Trophy Gold, Brindlewood Bay, and The Between. The Between was a big one. And I, as in all those contests, I was really, really happy with just the overall quality of the entries. There were so many things to like, and this was a particularly fun one to read the entries because this setting has so many it is simultaneously like a lot of like really fun nostalgic like touchstones that are immediately appealing, but then there's also like this weirdness. Like you just get this nice variety of like things that are both like familiar and strange, and I really loved it. The quality of the entries was so high, in fact, just to point out, that there are a few that Alex and I are interested in approaching the authors for publication, and they're not even being talked about today on the call. So, like that's how good they were, right? So, yeah, they're just really, really high quality entries overall. What were your all's thoughts? Mads, what were your thoughts on the contest?
Again, because of judging at the Brindlewood Bay writing contest, I felt like just like that, there was a lot of wonderful writing, some good entries that just, showcased not only the playability of public access as itself, but also, the love and enjoyment that people have for, wanting to write a mystery for it. I felt like there were more entries in this particular contest, even of examples of great writing than even the Brindlewood Bay contest.
Mhm.
And again, just enjoying to see the creativity and the premises that were brought out in this particular field. So
One observation I had between the two contests, since the Brindlewood Bay one's the most recent one we did, um, one observation is that I think it's actually easier to write public access mysteries than it is to write Brindlewood Bay mysteries, because Brindlewood Bay mysteries operate in a much like narrower band of like genre touchstone. Like the cozy murder mystery thing is I just think there's not quite as much like room there to like go into really crazy places, because it does have to have a certain degree of plausibility, right? Especially the murder mysteries. This is also why clues are easier to write for the between and public access, because the clues they don't make any fucking sense in those games, right? Because that's what the players are going to do. But in Brindlewood Bay, they do have to have a certain level of plausibility, like real world plausibility. And so I think that probably is why the public access ones like overall felt like, I wouldn't say like higher quality, but like I felt like there was a lot more like love in these entries. Like these entries felt so much more like loved, like the person who was writing was super into their little theme that they were doing. Ollie, what were your thoughts?
Yeah, it was very high
Oh,
quality.
Ollie, your input just changed. You are
Oh, can you hear me?
try again. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, yeah.
There you
So,
are.
yeah, I was just saying, yeah, no, quality super high, and also, I think it's been said before, but that public access is like one of the scariest games that you have,
Yeah.
and the entries themselves were scary. I was tending to read them at night, which was a mistake, especially on the Odyssey tapes, because the mysteries are mysteries, so they have like other stuff going on as well. But the Odyssey tapes, especially the really good ones, are just
Pure
like
horror.
mainline scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I can just see them in my head as I'm reading them as like little vignettes in VHS. But yeah, it was very high quality across the board, to the point where there's like you were saying, there's one that isn't mentioned here today. There's several that we like almost made it into all of our categories,
right.
but we had to choose.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was. When I was reading through them, I was like, "Oh, the judges definitely had a hard time with this."
Yes.
But
yeah.
I just wanted to make a note that, I mean, when I was reading, especially the Odyssey tapes, and I did make the mistake of trying to read some of them at nighttime. Wow, bad mistake. Was the fact that, I mean, it just felt like it gave, I mean, like obviously not only the creepypasta aspect of it, but also it gave that anthology feel, like, when you're watching like those anthology horror films, and then you're just kind of like watching the story, and you're like, whoa, like do that double take of like, what just happened? Yeah. That's the feeling I got.
Yeah, I have to say this is this is another reason why this contest was really fun for me, because I am a horror junkie, as everybody knows, and like this was we got like so many different flavors of horror, but the big emphasis was like kind of, in the mysteries, there was a lot of like kind of 80s and 90s referential horror, which I love, and then in the Odyssey tapes, like you said, Mads, it was just like this sort of like, and just like kind of hard hitting, like kind of like intense, almost anthology, like, like here's 10 minutes of really scary shit, like VHS or something, one of those like types of series, or like the A to Z's of horror, really great if nobody's ever seen that. Alex, what are your thoughts generally about the contest?
Yeah, well, for a first-time contest judge, this was fantastic. I felt like, even though I didn't know, reading submissions who did what, I could tell we had so many people who were first-time CFB writers coming to participate in this contest. People who may have just found out about the system because of public access, or people who were aware of it on like the periphery, but really got into it because of this game. And it really shows. They gave a lot of people that gave their all. Like, even if some things like, oh, this mechanically doesn't necessarily work, but the ideas are so strong and it painted such a vivid picture. So many of these mysteries are unique takes on the setting, because the setting itself is so broad in scope for like a small desert, like summertime horror. Like, there's a lot of weirdness you can get into, and people got into the weirdness.
Yeah.
And
oh, no, sorry, go ahead. No, finish.
I was gonna just say, with the Odyssey tapes specifically, I agree with everything that both Ollie and Mads have said. One thing that I was constantly thinking of, and indeed I kind of judged some things on this myself, was when I was reading it, all right, cool, the ideas are fun, this is very creepy. How terrified am I of something on this tape being used as a great hunger in Layer 4?
Right.
Like,
yeah. I had the similar thought. I was like, oh, I know what I would do with that in Layer 4 of the campaign. Yeah, really good stuff. It's really interesting. You talk about like new people in the community and like being brought, into this ecosystem because of this game in particular. It has been my observation, because I pay attention to these things, that public access between and Brindlewood Bay and public access has like had the most like the fastest trajectory of like people picking it up and playing it. Now that's almost certainly impartially, or at least a result of it has these other two games kind of leading up to it, right? But there's a lot of people who don't know anything about Brindlewood Bay and Between, right? Like, I just got a message the other day and they were like, oh, I'm loving Signals from the Other Side, and now I just found the Between. Like they came because of public access. And I think it's because we've talked about this on Dark and Threshold. There's not really like an analog horror role-playing game. Like, it's not really a thing that I'm aware of, at least. I mean, so yeah, you can tell that people are really responding to something there, and as the creator of the game, that's really heartening. So it's very gratifying. So why don't we go ahead and dive into Odyssey tapes then? So we have each of the judges has picked one judge spotlight pick, and I have chosen a creator spotlight. Now, these spotlight picks were not a runner-up or winner, but we just wanted to talk about them for some particular reason. There's either something about them that we thought was really great, or we thought that they, were really close to being a runner-up or winner. So we're going to talk about the spotlight picks now. And so I think we'll start with the judges' spotlights. And let me go find I'm going to pull up my note sheet with all the names of the people who were submitted the entries. So give me one moment while I do that. There we go. All right. Contest entries. Here we go. Okay, so our first judge spotlight. Let's go ahead and talk about yours, Mads. Which Odyssey tape did you want to spotlight?
I wanted to spotlight Tomatoes.
We should say it's all caps. Tomatoes, yes. Which makes it scarier for some reason. Yeah, tomatoes. I love it. Let me just read it. We should say Tomatoes was written by let's see here, Mark Zimmer. I don't know who Mark Zimmer is, but I'm excited for them. Tomatoes. The tape contains an episode of We Can Dig It, a groovy gardening show from 1979. The show is hosted by Patty and Gail, a pair of granola-type twins sporting bangs and bell-bottoms. They show people it's cool to care about the planet through sustainable agriculture. The first prompt says the tape lingers on idyllic summer sky for the title card, then pans down to a smiling Patty and Gail kneeling in front of a massive tomato plant. Next to them stands their sidekick, John Boy, a scruffy kid in bib overalls. What about this plant's tomatoes makes them particularly unappetizing? And then later, Patty and Gail compliment the richness of the soil, then part the tomato vines to reveal a tombstone. The twins are thrilled, but what bittersweet inscription on the grave makes John Boy start to tear up? Oh. And then next, Patty and Gail explain the taproot system of a healthy tomato plant while John Boy wipes tears and snot away from his sleeve. The grave dirt beneath their feet begins to swell. What muffled sound is silenced by Gail tamping the dirt down with her trowel? And then at the very end of the tape, it cuts to Patty, Gail, and John Boy sitting on the tailgate of an old pickup truck, biting into raw tomatoes like they were apples. John Boy gets a horrified look and spits something wet into his hand. What disturbing object does he reveal to the camera that sets Patty and Gail laughing? Mads, what did you love about tomatoes?
I mean, I'm reading this from from beginning to end. And I'm usually doing this no matter if I'm running a game or if I'm playing the game, but um having played the between a lot, I love the unseen. So this is like, the Odyssey tapes are a wonderful uh, uh, reminiscent of that. And reading this, I was immediately thinking, yeah, this totally works as a public access show. I mean, like very grainy and like just like very let's bring it to the people kind of thing. And doesn't need a live audience because you wouldn't have that for public access. And you just bring the camera, yeah, bring the audience with the camera to wherever you are. And I'm visualizing this, and I just love the double take, feel of every single prompt that's here. It's like it starts off normal and then gets worse when you hear the prompt, like what's disturbing,
The prompts have jump
unappetizing.
scares, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. And
They
it
have like
was
jump
just,
scares in them. Yeah.
it's
Textual jump
just so,
scares.
like, I could hear the ambient music. I could hear, like, a possible soundtrack. I mean, like, I was thinking like Creep Show, like the like a short story built in just with this Odyssey tape alone. And it was wonderful. So every single prompt hit for me in terms of, the jump scare, the ambient like music that I could hear, and visualizing it in my head as this is what's playing. All right. And this is what you're seeing as the audience and going, what the fuck is going on?
When I think of John Boy, I think of have you ever seen Cabin Fever? That Eli
Yes.
Roth movie Cabin
Oh,
Fever,
yeah.
and there's that little boy, the banjo playing boy on the
Oh,
on the porch, and he's like pancakes like that. That's what I imagine John
oh
Boy looks
God.
like. So anyway, for all the Cabin Fever fans out there, Alex and Ollie, do you have any thoughts on tomatoes?
Yeah, tomatoes. It's so. I mean, saying what I mentioned about the Great Hungers, I would be terrified if John Boy, Patty, or Gale showed up as a Great Hunger in my game. Yeah, I really like this one. Kind of for the reason you already said about the jump scares. I love it when a text prompt can instill immediate and sudden like fear or a stomach drop of dread in me, and just that kind of like this is one of those one of the things we talked about when we were judging these entries was like the arc of the tape is so interesting in general, because this is like it is generally pretty straightforward, but it goes like in kind of a wiggly line that makes me go like, oh, this is okay, and no, everything's bad, and okay, nope, still bad, all right, cool. It just constant dread.
Yeah,
Love
and
it.
that final bit with the sounds coming muffled from whatever they've just buried, there's just, yeah, just that kind of like ultimate horror. Basically,
Absolutely.
no one's into. Well, I'm sure someone is, but very few people are into being buried alive.
Right, right. Love it. Alex, what is your spotlight pick for the Odyssey tapes?
My spotlight pick for the Odyssey tapes is Dwayne's World.
Dwayne's World, which was written by Sasha Afranian Dow. So let's talk about Dwayne's World. I don't think I want to read them all. Maybe just give me like a summary. What is the what happens in Dwayne's World?
Dwayne's World is naturally an obvious parody of Wayne's World, which, the SNL skit slash movie starring Mike Myers and Dana Carvey. The tape is an episode of Dwayne's World, a music variety show hosted by some local headbangers, Dwayne Lipton and Dana Garfield, live from their mom's basement. Very much a parody of the actual original skit, and indeed interviewing musical guests, the Rolling Stones, but also maybe reality shifts and they're suddenly Aerosmith. And it seems like Dwayne is actually sentiently aware that this is an episode and like that there are weird things going on in the background, but then becomes kind of unsettled because as the host of the show, things are happening that he doesn't even kind of know what to do about. And in the tape culminates in Dwayne panically trying to escape his own episode before directly addressing the viewer and asking them for help. And yeah, it is party hard Dwayne, party hard Garth. I thought that this was the most too many cooks thing tape, because one of the things I loved about it going in was, okay, first of all, I'm laughing just because the Dwayne's World parody, it's just so loud and out there, but the tape then actually worked. Like, it wasn't just, oh haha, here's a fun parody of something we know. It's still creepy, it's still very unique. And the thing that I loved most is this feels like not only is this on the one hand, weird and clearly very like, okay, this is a parody, but like, is this a parody in universe? Is this a public access rip off of that famous skit? Like, in public access, the movie came out in 1992. Is Wayne's World a thing? And this is clearly some Degoya County residents just thing that's gone wrong. But also, I just really love tapes that get to like address the latchkeys, occasionally break that fourth wall and make them think, oh, these aren't just recordings, these are things that are interlacing with you in a unique way. So I loved a lot about this because it both made me laugh and also kind of like made me a little like very creeped out.
Something we talked about in my little horror writing workshop at the retreat that we were just at, or that Alex and I were just at, is I talked about like this idea of like, in game writing, one of the things that makes horror work in game writing, because one of the things that makes horror work, especially in game writing, is you have this like sort of like invitation into the horror, right? Like, you have to like create space for people to want to be scared, or at least like, put themselves in that mindset, because that can be a hard thing to do at a role-playing game table. And I find that humor is a great way of doing that. Humor and like references, right, are ways of doing that. And this does a great job of that, right? Like, it lures you in with this like obvious, like almost like corny Wayne's World, like, like it's over the top, like how referential it is, right? But then it kind of becomes this other thing as it goes. And I thought it was really, really terrific. Mads and Ollie, any thoughts on Dwayne's World?
I mean, I really like the surreality of it. I mean, like, you kind of like got your meta layers on it, and then the breaking of the fourth wall. I mean, I love the comic arc in She-Hulk. I mean, I haven't watched the show actually. Whoops. But I mean, like, the actual like comic arc of her always like, filling full of humor and then breaking the fourth wall. I mean, like, I'm really into that. And you see it in here in this particular Odyssey tape, but then also the surreality of it. I mean, like, just like the shifting of realities. It's like, who knows like that this is happening, and like, the time shift, or like, the switch between the Rolling Stones and Aerosmith. I mean, that's a shift that like maybe nobody's prepared for. And again, it's kind of like that double take of what's going on here. So
Yeah, I wasn't immediately sold on this because
Ollie, your mic, your mic is, you're in the wrong mic again. I don't know how that keeps happening.
Oh no. Any good?
Not yet.
How about now?
Nope.
Now?
No.
Now?
No. We'll just we'll press forward while you get it sorted out. Okay, yeah, Dwayne's World, love Dwayne's World, so good. Let's go ahead and go to while Ollie's getting his stuff sorted out, I'll go ahead and do my creator spotlight pick. My spotlight pick for Odyssey tapes is I've already gonna pull it up. I'm trying to pull up the author here. My spotlight pick is Black Rock Maze Pure White Labyrinth, and that is by Catalin Elin. And
that's Jazzy.
Oh, that's Jazzy. Oh, okay. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, there we go. Awesome. I did not know that. Okay, well, great. Jazzy's in our AP of public access. I love it. Black Rock Maze. This is one that is. I picked it because it's just so scary. Like it's this pair of young women who are on this. Their little show is called Ghost Gals. They are amateur ghost hunters, and they are they're at this like sort of abandoned mine thing in Deep Lake that's called Black Rock Maze, and what it is essentially is it's basically the Blair Witch Project. I mean, it's like the Blair Witch Project tape, right? Like, and I think that's what I really love about it, because as they like go deeper into these mines, they become like, you know, their little camera is catching things in the corner. They're becoming more desperate. They have that like moment at the end where they're sort of like, you know, they're like crying out for the other one in the darkness, you know, and then one gets snatched away. I mean, a lot of people don't remember this either because they're too young or because there was so much like cultural backlash. But the Blair Witch Project, when it first came out, was scary as fuck. Like it was so scary. And like people forget that, like, because there was so much like there were so many like imitators that came after Blair Witch, and then Blair Witch 2, which I actually think is a good movie, but like it was like really panned. And like but it kind of takes away from the fact that the Blair Witch Project originally was really, really scary because it was just so, it had this rawness to it, and it was about like conflict between the characters. And then we get those like sort of like dodgy, like found footage, like things at the end of the characters running in fear and glimpsing things, and then it ends. And that's what this one does. It has all those elements. And so I really loved it. I just thought it was like, I was reading it and I was like, man, this is just good. It's just freaky. So that was my creator spotlight pick for the Odyssey tapes. Alex or Mads, do you have any thoughts on
Yeah,
Black Rock Maze?
I love the found footage part of it. I mean, like I had binged some found footage movies at one point, and this reminds me a lot of the elements that I like in it. You know, just the whole like visceral point of, you know, we're following these people along, we don't know what's going to happen next, and then like, you know, creepy shit's happening to them. And then there's this one story, like in one of those like unexplained type of anthologies, I think supposedly real, of like two campers going out, like two female campers going out for a holiday, and then like they just find pieces of their stuff and their camera, which is like, you know, I guess or their phones, and like, you know, the powers run out, and it's like, you know, sort of tracing back from the GPS left on their phones and the pictures of where they ended up versus like, you know, getting to that point, and then they both disappeared. And again, creepy as fuck. I mean, I think this is one of the ones that I read when like at nighttime, and it's like that was a mistake, but yeah.
Yeah,
this-
I oh, go ahead, Ollie.
I was going to say this is one of the almosts for all of us, wasn't it? It was almost yeah, we all loved that one. We all loved how intense it was, like in a way that some of the others weren't, because it's so direct into where this is going to end.
Yeah, that was my feeling on it too. Like it, like a lot of them have like a kind of a kitsch element, you know, which is fun and cool. This one was just like, I'm here to scare you, right? And I loved it. Yeah, Alex.
Yeah, it was great because there is a really good like mini graphic novel called A House by Josh Simmons, which is about teenagers who go exploring an abandoned mansion, and like this gave me immediate vibes of that. And one of my favorite things is when young people go gallivanting into some abandoned space for fun and adventure and whatever, and then like it's so easy to get lost or hurt in like these like urban exploration kind of locations. It's very much like this like tragic and terrifying event of like these people get lost down there, they turn against one another, and like things are like really just kind of like sad ultimately. So like I love this because it was just a vivid picture of like friends who get into hijinks and fun, but now they're in over their heads, and let's see how that devolves really badly.
Yeah, I
Oh,
love
and
it.
another
Go ahead.
touchstone for that I had for this was The Descent. That's a
Yes.
movie that I've watched
Yes,
a
yes,
billion
yes, I
times,
know,
and I was
yeah.
like, oh shit.
Descent, modern classic. Like in 30 years, people are going to be talking about The Descent like as like one of the great horror movies. I just know it. Love it. Ollie, now that we've got you back, did you want to have any? Do you have any thoughts on Dwayne's World?
Yes, I was just going to say on Dwayne's World that initially how direct the parody was didn't draw me in, but then as it escalated, I was like, oh, okay. And then as the kind of like the panic mounted and the talking directly to the camera, that's when it really started working. So I think it's almost a kind of false sense of security.
It is. Yeah, it's a feint, right? Like it's a total feint. Yeah. Love that. Okay. Well, now let's go back to the judges' spotlight picks. Our last judges' spotlight for the Odyssey Tapes portion. Ollie, which one did you choose?
I chose Baking with Claudia.
Baking with Claudia. Let me get the author of that one. Baking with Claudia is by, I just have a first name, Cassidy. Apologies, I don't have your surname, Cassidy, but we are happy for your pick. Ollie, tell us about this one and what'd you like about it?
Yeah, okay. So Baking with Claudia is a kind of kitschy 90s bakery show wherein the titular Claudia makes some bread, but it also has public access, so it's not that. There's an implication that her newly remodeled kitchen is not her newly remodeled kitchen at all, and she is like somewhere entirely else. She uses all sorts of weird ingredients as she goes through, but they're kind of, it has that thing where there's like that kitsch sheen over everything. So even though she may be using, I don't know, like eyeballs or something over here, that's way too on the nose, but something creepy. It's packaged as if it's like flour, for example. And it has an interesting thing with the arc of it, because it gets kind of creepier and creepier until you're at a point where I'll just read out the cue, which is Claudia's elbow deep in sticky thick dough. How can you tell that she's been kneading for hours, and why can't she stop? Which is, it has like a almost like a hostage video element to it, which is super creepy. And then it kind of goes back down a bit because she's then seen talking to her sourdough starter, who is known
Clint Eastwood.
Clint Eastwood, which is a top tier pun, and talking directly to him. But then it's, I could never forget to feed you, here you go. And even though it's less directly scary than the one before, it has this implication that this is not going to stop. She is just going to kind of keep being in this loop, in this kitchen, wherever it may be. And I just thought that it has a really nice mixture of horror and kitsch, which appealed.
I love this one because when we think about like public access TV shows, we think about like shows like this. I mean, obviously not this level of like weirdness and horror, but we think about shows of like individuals who are passionate about something and who are, I don't know if they have a similar thing in the UK, but like they can go on their local public access, cable access TV station and make their show and broadcast it to their community, And there's something about the people who are inclined to do that, who, they are eccentric, usually, we'll say. And this takes that and like public access RPGs it up, and makes it like scary and weird. It takes the kitsch and kind of like just amps it up into a whole other level. And I think that's one of the things that makes a really good Odyssey tape, right? Like it clearly understands the source material, so to speak, and then takes it up to that extra notch. Matt or Alex? Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say that was one of my sort of judging criteria is, can I imagine this as a TV show if it didn't have the horror in it? Would
Yes.
this be
Yep.
a public access TV show? But no, we don't have that in the UK. We had no idea it existed until like Wayne's World came out. And we're like, yeah, that seems weird, but yeah.
Indeed. Alex, Mads, any thoughts on Baking with Claudia?
Yeah, no, likewise, Clint Eastwood killed me. I gave this take got huge marks for me just from that pun alone. But it is genuinely scary. This idea of like, I can so vividly picture Betty, and I love just the notion of like feeding her sourdough starter. What is she feeding her sourdough starter? And that in leaving that in the hands of the players to determine the ultimate horror. Like, because this is one of the things I love about public access. You could have one table who's like, she's stuffing a body into the sourdough starter. Or you could just be like, then it drops down to just completely normal again. She is just regularly feeding her sourdough starter after all that weird horror stuff had previously happened. The variety that this tape allows for is just so creepy, and the vibes are impeccable.
Yeah, I can't pick out one single touchstone that I'm thinking of, but I know, again, from watching some anthology horror like episodes or movies, that there's always at least one bit that has somebody feeding into the horror, whatever it may be. And, like it's like it's Renfield or it's Slave or something, just where it's like, they are part of it. They are enabling it. And it was creepy as hell. I mean, just to be able to see this, like just so domestic and so cozy starting, and then it just ramps it up from there. I mean, this was really good.
I think it's worth
Yeah.
noting as well that probably the reason we didn't have public access in the UK is because the production values were so low on our regular TV that it wasn't really required.
Don't tell me that. I'm getting ready to go watch a bunch of BBC Christmas Ghost Story shows.
Oh no, those are great.
I've heard those are really good.
Yeah.
Fair enough. I do remember watching one of it was a cooking program on the BBC from the 70s of a woman making a Christmas pudding.
It was Fanny Craddock. I sent it to you.
You did. It was bizarre. Yeah. It was I was obsessed with it. Like
she was an icon.
Yeah, I was obsessed with it. I was like, what is going on? I'm so into it. All right. Okay. With all that said, let's go to our runner-up and winner. So the runner-up of the Odyssey tape portion of the contest is Deep Lake Do's and Don'ts 33, The Big Day. This one was written by KC. Again, that's the only name I have is KC. KC, congratulations. Alex, why don't you give us a summary of what this one's about?
Absolutely. Deep Lake Do's and Don'ts is a short segment of life lessons and PSAs that occasionally played between shows on TV Odyssey, hosted by Pastor Perch. This gentleman who provided messages like, do recycle bottles and cans, and don't drink too much soda. The tape itself is this segment of there's something big that's being prepared for in Deep Lake in this tape. Pastor Perch is going around town and talking about, it's the big event is coming up. And there are things that are happening around in the background that kind of like allude to what that big event might be. He goes to an elementary school and is interviewing some kids and, talking about the big day. And a girl expressed that she's very worried about outsiders as bold white letters flash onto the screen when you're confronted by an outsider. What should you do? Do this. The next segment is like out on a hiking trail. He's walking around in the wilderness and he seems a little disheveled, but nevertheless cheerful. And way he like picks something up off the ground, and then the tape just suddenly says, when you lose track of an outsider, don't do this. And the last segment is just like suddenly the tape like distorts and glitches, and it's just Pastor Perch staring at the camera on Rodenbecker Street, and there are a bunch of dark, shadowy silhouettes just standing on the driveways of the lane of houses. And there are like a couple of them standing out in front of 26 Rodenbecker, the house the Latchkeys are staying at, and the pastor's not smiling, and he's just looking intensely at the camera. And whatever you do when you encounter it, never ... it's very creepy.
Well, so the runner-up, that means you all must have loved it. What did you like about this one?
I'll throw to Mads and Ollie for this for a bit.
I love at the end that they're at the house. That just really, I mean, it literally and figuratively brings the horror home to know that they were kind of like focused there. I love the cult vibes on this. I got like major, like those video confession Heaven's Gate tapes was like big in this. It's like that if they turned it into a show. And also I particularly liked one of the things that I was looking for in judging categories is do the bits that you have to feed in, the actual bits that the players contribute. Is there like a good lead into that? Is it just like something normal and then you see something scary, or is there like more of a guidance for that? And I thought the do's and don'ts format gave you really great guidance on where to go with these.
Yeah, I felt like with this one, and oh god, what was the name of the movie? I want to say like Session 9 tapes or something like that. It just kind of gave me that feel of where they have the scenes of the jump scares, or like, there's like somebody coming upon you and then like they immediately quick cut to something else. And then like at the very end, when you get to the point of finding out what truly happened, and then like having the voiceover of this is what happened back then in this asylum, like, way back when, for the horror. It's just like it gives this image of someone standing out in the middle of the street, and just the horror of someone standing in the middle of the street, and that's it. I mean, never, like the just the words, like the directional, it's like do, don't, never. And then that's like you could have like a quick cut and then like fade, like, not even fade to black, just black.
Yeah,
And then like run credits.
There's some parts of Texas
just...
where I was gonna say there's some parts of Texas where if I am driving out in the middle of this part of Texas, a remote part of Texas, and I see you standing in the middle of the road at night, you're getting hit. Like there's no I'm not slowing down, I'm not stopping. I'm doing the next guy a favor, and you're getting hit. So like just know that. This has that same like kind of vibe, right? Like don't go stand in the middle of the streets looking ominous. It's a bad idea. Alex, what are your thoughts?
I was just gonna say, yeah, the do and don't format is really cool, because since the tape is called Do's and Don'ts, you expect the do, you expect the don't, and then just like the last prompt is never, and it's like it just immediately is even more like frightening. Again, as I've said, Pastor Perch being a great hunger would scare the hell out of me, because having this tape be kind of like self-aware again, like of those who are possibly watching it, or even if it's not self-aware, this tape is clearly, is an omen of the residence your characters are staying at in some way. It feels really cool to have like a PSA, because it's like you have like, okay, we've had a lot of weird segments. Here's one that is like, here's a slice of life and there's something wrong here. Okay, hold on, wait a second. No, I turn it off. This tape feels like it makes sense that the latchkeys are pausing, because they're like, all right, that short segment's over. Let's pause and go do this other thing. But then when you get to the end of the tape, the never part, you're just like, and we're in it now. There's no getting out of this.
Yeah, this one is so good, so scary. Structurally, like Ollie said, structurally very clever. The way it the way it leads players to like do it prompts them. It's really, really good. And also just so it's perfectly clear, I would never hit anybody with my car. I'm just kidding. Although
gotta establish that
there's certain parts of
out
Texas
now.
where I would freak the fuck out if I saw you standing in the middle of the road, looking ominous. Fabulous. Okay, congratulations to Casey and Deep Lake Do's and Don'ts 33, The Big Day. And that leads us to our winner of the Odyssey tape portion. Brrr, that's my drum roll. Brrr. The winner is Gorilla Makeover 012 Pure White Pretext, written by Sarah Bowling. I will say, when I was reading through these, I had kind of forgotten who submitted what, and I knew Sarah wrote this right away. Like I absolutely knew Sarah wrote it. Sarah has such a distinct point of view on game writing, and her voice is so distinct of all the things I've seen her written. And so I knew it was theirs for sure. This is a really good tape. Alex, you're doing great on the summaries. Why don't you summarize this one too?
Absolutely. Gorilla Makeover is an episode of Gorilla Makeover, which right out of the gate establishes it aired sporadically and often interrupted other programming. It opens with like disorienting cuts of random things like shattering glass, a manicured hand, clutching a hammer in a dark room, garbled speech, before opening to like two hosts whose names you don't know. Their faces just inches from the camera, and they are precise plastic beauties with vacant eyes, caked with makeup. They are like, their hair just fills the frame, and they speak in breathy whispers, introducing the makeover candidate for the episode, a woman named Gracie Richards. And they the tape begins with them announcing that, that they establish that we're here because every woman deserves beauty. They have inner beauty waiting to come out, and everyone deserves to feel special, even someone like Gracie. And they say cruel and mean-spirited reasons for why she's so ideal. And then The hosts step back from the camera to reveal that they're in her living room, and Gracie is sitting terrified in a chair in the middle of the room, and you can tell that they have invaded her house and she is a hostage. And then like they pull out their makeover kit, a black duffel bag, and begin to assemble their tools, makeover tools, regular things. But then they start to pull other things out. What are they? It's up to you. Maybe it's industrial tools or something surgical and worse. Your choice. The tape then cuts jarringly forward to the end of the episode where everything's normal and fine. Gracie it spins around into the big reveal. Her flaws are corrected, and Gracie is super happy and concedes that they were right. She needed a makeover. That's the end of the tape.
Yeah. Terrifying, right? I mean, fucking terrifying. It is so I love this one, and again, I knew it was Sarah's because it has like vibes of I get like kind of like kind of Dressed to Kill vibes. I get Giallo. I get this got Lynchian vibes as well. And this is all stuff that in Sarah's writing that Sarah does, and so that's why I picked it out as theirs. I was reading it and my skin was crawling the whole time, and I think that was like I was like, oh, this is terrific, right? This is really really terrific. Group judges, why'd you pick this as the winner?
Because as you say, it's fucking terrifying. It's the absolutely the scariest. For me, I had big vibes of like The Strangers meets Queer Eye kind of a thing, with a bit of like with a bit of Mean Girls in there as well. And that's the thing, is that there is
Funny
a
games, you know.
Yeah.
A healthy dose of the Poughkeepsie tapes, yeah.
Yes. There's a tendency in horror for the killers to be in some ways sympathetic, but these are not sympathetic as in like you feel for them, but just in like they have tragic backstories or whatever. Whereas these girls, you can just tell, were like the mean girls at their school before they ever did any of this horrible stuff. And it's so frightening. And like the end really leaves it up to the players, where it's saying about how they've corrected her flaws. So you could go with something like really Grand Guignol and like they've done something like horrible and like the Joker surgery from Batman 89 to her, or it could be like completely invisible, which in its own way is creepier. So yeah, I just, this one, it terrified me. So it was a definite yes from me.
Mads, I could see you reacting just while Alex was recapping it.
I mean, like, and again, from the between, I was immediately getting a Sister Syndulla vibe to it. And then, just the whole, again, the mention of the movies of like the home invasion and just like removing agency, but yet like somehow at the very end, it's like, the person themselves while living is conceding, this was the best thing for me, like kind of like Stepford Wife kind of crap. And I'm like, oh shit. No, I mean, like, that was definitely terrifying for all those aspects that were already mentioned, and for this, and just again that insidious vibe of, this could be taken quite lightly. I mean, like if you wanted to, I mean, like, because the prompts give you that room to do that, but the prompts also give you that room to be like, go hog wild and horrify and terrify yourselves. So what is conceivably scary to one table could be like, that's a walk in the park for another person that's like, totally into horror, and vice versa. So yeah, I mean, like, just the possibilities and the playability of this particular Odyssey tape was amazing. So
the horror touchstones are so impeccable here. Like, you get, obviously there's the home invasion part of it, but also there's a little bit of like torture porn in there. There's a lot of like Brian De Palma, like 80s stuff in there. Like, it's really, really, it just knows what it is, and it really, really delivers. Alex, what are your thoughts?
There, I want to exactly what you said. And one thing I think that this tape does extremely well is that it knows where to cut. Literally and figuratively. But the fact that we have this torturous buildup with this home invasion scenario building up to the makeover itself, the tape could have easily establish, all right, let's narrate what happens to Gracie during tape. The fact that it skips to the end, you never see the actual procedure, you get to see the result, is the scariest thing, especially if you have a table who wants to go really intense and like scary with it and have it be like, now I am, Javi from Repo, the Genetic Opera, just my face is all redone up and all that. That's that you can go that way, but it knows where the buildup is, and it knows where it needs to just suddenly cut out. Again, and what I've said before, if these two hosts showed up at my house during the night of the Bone Wolves, I would cry because I'm dead and there's no getting out. And so like having this tape be really creepy, cut, but again, the fact that it leaves it open to, you could just have it be utterly normal. You could have the tape suddenly just be like, yeah, just a regular makeover show, and nothing seems wrong. But maybe there is something wrong, or does it give you the implication, is this tape altered in some way? Or like, this is one of the things where it inspires the kind of procedural elements of the public access campaign that your table will define as you play. Are your Odyssey tapes infected by something? Are they changing? Who knows? This tape is great. Like, it leaves so much room to explore and give like a vivid idea for what is TV Odyssey.
There's almost something meta about the horror too. Like I find the idea of like what direction the playgroup might take the tape to also be scary. Like it's like the possibilities are so like, it's so intriguing. Okay, well, congratulations to Sarah and Gorilla Makeover 012 Pure White Pretext for the winning the Odyssey tape portion of the contest. We're going to take a 5-minute break and come back and do the mysteries. Okay, we are back. Let's go ahead and dive into the mysteries, the mystery entries. We have our judges' spotlight picks. We'll kick off with those, and I think we'll start with Ollie. Ollie, which was your spotlight pick?
So my spotlight pick, which I think was actually a favorite of all three of us, was Dog Told Me To.
Dog Told Me To. That was by, let's see, Dog Told Me To. I think that was Jack, but let me confirm. We have several dog ones. Where are we at? Yeah, Dog Told Me To is by Jack Hargreaves, indeed. What's it about, and what'd you love about it?
Okay, so Dog Told Me To is about a little kid that murders his family under instruction, he says, of Officer Barker. Officer Barker being an a word I cannot pronounce, meaning animal that acts like a human. Uniform St. Bernard created by local illustrator, and he gives like little public service announcements, giving people advice on how to behave, basically. And there appears to be a entity which has like taken his form and is inciting violence, and it did back in 1981, and it is doing so again now. So you've got elements of it. Parts 1 and 2, you've got some Halloween references in there with the little kid wearing a paper mache Officer Barker mask, and I love the kids on bikes of it all. I love the John Carpenter of it all, and I just thought that there's something creepy about Officer Barker, aside from just like the taking the form of the things that you fear, but it's that the kind of the patriarchal aspects of it, almost like the teaching you how to behave, teaching you what to do, and then it turns out they're involved in all sorts of awful scandals as well, and it's like well, you can't trust them and you shouldn't trust them. So actually it's a good lesson as well.
ACAB, especially Officer Barker.
All cops are Barker.
Yeah, I loved this one as well. I thought it was, I picked up on its references also, and I thought that was one of the really like fun things about it. The Carpenter references were definitely in there. The kids on bike stuff, the Stephen King's It. I even picked up on that stuff as well.
It's not too on the nose. It does its own thing.
Yeah. It's still its own thing. Exactly. It's still its own like creation, while clearly having some influences, kind of swimming around back there. Really good stuff. Thoughts on this particular mystery, Alex?
Yeah, Yeah, no, absolutely. It's set during 4th of July, basically around that time period of that coming summer like festivities, which I love having Deep Lake used as a venue for like other things that are going on. Like a lot of mysteries are really cool because they can take place anywhere, but having this mystery be like this is an event focused one. This is like, and that you get the barbecues, you get the fireworks. There are like a few clues in here about fireworks, and then something that's clearly like, is it like an alien comet in the sky? Who knows what it is? There's something weird going on. The It vibes in particular, with like Officer Barker, such a Pennywise character that I'm like, I want to play him. Like that's one of those like things like, is the threat, is the danger here something I want to like dig my teeth into and role play at the table? And Officer Barker absolutely is. One of my favorite things that this mystery does is the killer, the young kid from the 80s, he can show up because I believe there's a post-session stinger after something happens in this mystery where he breaks out of his like mental ward that he's been interred at, and then will show up in the town and like encouraged by the entity Officer Barker to kill, It's like, yes, Henry Bowers, let's go.
Yeah, big time Henry Bowers, right? Like I was like, oh yeah, that's the Henry Bowers moment going on. Well, and also, if I remember correctly, I haven't looked at it in a bit. I think there's like a special move where, or a special rule where you can get taken over by Officer Barker as well, right?
Yeah, there's the condition like a dog on a leash, which is one of
Mhm.
the reasons why like I had it in my notes for this particular mystery. And yeah, it's only one latchkey can have this condition at a time. It can only be cleared if either the entity preys on another latchkey or the mystery is resolved.
Mhm.
So yeah, they have to narrate a scene that they commit an act of destructive vandalism or petty violence against their will. So I mean, like, just the call for the violent entity, like the mind control, like, like again, definitely the Henry Bauer vibes of like being the avatar of the creature. And then just the nostalgia, I guess, of the ubiquitous anti-crime campaigns, like having that character, to kind of like carry you through for like, like, watch out, like, watch out for doing this, that, and the other thing, kids, and like, don't do this. And yeah, I mean, it just had those nostalgic vibes while being exceptionally freaking creepy.
Yeah, it's absolutely. And one of my favorite, actually, since Mads reminded me of it just now, yeah, the fact that Officer Barker can shift forms, so like can appear as the mascot, can also appear as some hulking canine monster. But specifically, and I love it when mysteries do this, is because he's a shapeshifter and can take different forms. The first time a latchkey encounters Officer Barker, like where he's like representing something that they fear most, you just get to ask the player, what does he turn into that your latchkey is like most afraid of? How does your fear manifest? And that is using that like buy-in to engage with the characters and the players themselves is the best way to do this horror, because it's like, what are you scared of? Let's find that out and then like play into that.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there's a lovely little joke in it, which is
Oh,
that
Ollie, you're
Oh,
like
Ollie, we
shipping
got your
again.
audio again. Yeah. All right,
It's
that's
Officer
our.
Barker.
It's Officer Barker. uh, yeah, I'll comment and say that one of the things I really liked about this one, going back to the little like dog on a leash condition thing, it's really tricky to do in role playing games. It's really tricky to do mind control, like because there's so many like consent and play issues around like mind control rules. But I really like the way this one does this one. I mean, I would probably tweak it a little bit if I was publishing it, but I like that it's like you do this die roll and it says really specifically what's going to happen. It's not like you are like now in the thrall of the keeper or whatever, right? There's just these certain things you have to do, or you take the condition. And if you take the condition, because of just the fundamental way the game works, the condition, you might be okay, yes, maybe you're like a dog on a leash, but all it really means, practically speaking, is it can just affect your die rolls, right? And then we kind of figure out at the table what that means. I've always been really sensitive to like mind control rules in games and like how to use them effectively. And I've done a lot of work in that regard. And conditions are a big part of that, like the way the conditions work. It's like a sort of like, when done properly, it has more of like a consent and play, like, green light kind of situation than you sometimes get in like games that have mind control as a feature. Ollie, are you with us again?
hopefully, you hear me?
No. Well, Dog told me to. I liked it a lot. Really, really good entry. We'll get Ollie's closing thoughts on it in a bit while Ollie gets audio sorted out. But congratulations to Jack for having a spotlight pick. Let's go over to Mads now. Mads, which was your spotlight pick?
My spotlight pick was Lilac Street Lotta Burger.
The Discord loves this one. They always talk about this one on Discord. Lilac Street Lottaburger. What's going on in this one?
Okay, so basically nobody wants to do like leftovers for the middle of summer. So they're going to go to the Lotta Burger, a beloved regional New Mexico burger chain on Lilac Street, and they want to go. And what they have a surprisingly, to paint the scene as to what surprisingly intense for a fast food chain experience did you have at Lilac Street Lotta Burger as a child with your family? So ties immediately into the, like what happened when you were a kid. I mean, kid memories with food is always intense. I mean, I don't care what it is. It's like whether it be, cultural, home cooked food, or even like again, like fast food chains, right? I mean, this is like harkening back to like McDonald's or something like that, or a local, again, a local regional chain that it you feel for it because maybe you went like every week or something like that. And so immediately I was drawn to this for that reason. And then when you get to the Lotta Burger, though, the vibes are bad. So it's run down. It's kind of
It's not just the vibes. It looks bad.
worrying,
Yeah, yeah.
worrying, grinding, squelching sound coming from the kitchen. But when you get to the locations and paint the scenes and stuff, I mean, like you find out that the kitchen is immaculate. So creepy. So a lot of different things about this mystery I really, really enjoyed. I mean, like the moments, like, where the keeper can totally pull out these things and in description, and then kind of ramp up some sinister vibes with this, regardless of the sinister vibes that already exist for this. The kitchen dangers, the dangers like the kitchen equipment or the bad vibes, and then the locations just have like some special things with them for the prompts and the paint the scenes. There is a special rule. So if the latchkeys watch an Odyssey tape in the Lilac Street Lotta Burger break room, then the big man will show up. So I mean, like it pulls in bits of the game overall as well. So I mean, again, it has a lot of different things that if you just took it as its own mystery and scenario, I mean, like it's very engaging. What's in the freezer, or why is this like such a big pull for people to be able to keep coming back here, and what happens when you ignore it. So that was some interesting things. And I was also looking at the side characters. So again, some things to enjoy as a keeper. I like the quotes, each of the quotes for the employees, manager, people that they have the possibility of meeting. They do give information about how to play this particular person, or the vibe of them. And again, it's something where it gives like an environment that the latchkeys can live in and immerse themselves in. And the clues, I mean, like everything from, oh, a recipe book with numerous additions, notes, and changes, to a cabinet full of seasonings you don't recognize. Or if you want to get fun, I mean, you basically have a dream of luscious, appetizing food that you just can't quite touch. I really enjoyed the writing for this as well. So, I mean, again, a lot of things to love about this particular mystery, in particular, and the food nostalgia was like already had me, because I was just like, yeah, I can totally see playing this. Like regardless of like how the levels of horror you want to ramp up for this, I mean, it's going to live in the characters' minds. But as a keeper, I mean, like it's what's the word? It's encapsulated, so you can run it as its own thing, but then like draw in elements like to bring them back into the overall game. So
Packaged, if you will.
What I loved about like Lilac Street Lotta Burger is there's a really distinct feeling you get when you go to a Popeyes restaurant. And when you go to Popeyes, I'm assuming they don't have these in the UK. I apologize, Ollie. But
We
like
just got them.
oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
in the United States, when you go to a Popeyes, there's this distinct, like, you go there because the food is delicious. I love it. Popeyes is so delicious, but you get the sense that everything and everyone hates you. Like,
Yes.
like,
Yes. And they
like,
take forever.
yeah,
Forever.
like it everything about the experience feels openly hostile, but you still go because you love Popeye, you love those red beans and rice, you love the spicy fried chicken, even though like you are pretty sure nobody would put you out if you caught fire. Like, it's that kind of place. And a lot of burger, I got those vibes, right? Like, that's kind of what it expresses that in a certain way. Alex and Ollie, thoughts on Lilac Street Lottaburger?
I'm going to talk whilst I have mic. So yeah, I really liked the setup for it. It felt like that you're there anyway because you're hungry. It feels like an organic inn, and then someone approaches you whilst you're there. It's that really appealed to me. It felt like it didn't feel like this would be like quite obvious. The guy who comes to you wouldn't like have a question mark above their head if it were a video game. It just feels like it feels organic, and I really like that. And I am a sucker for anything which is weird with fast food, like the Buffy the Vampire Slayer strange meat recipe episode I'm a big fan of. Yeah,
it's such a simple premise too. Like, it's just like, what's going on here? Like, why is this place so weird? You know, like, there's no like other like, you know, like terrible pressing things going on. It's just like, you're here, the employees think it's weird, maybe you could look into why it's weird, like what's going on. I love that. Alex?
Yeah, I love the detail of the location being grimy as hell, but the food looks amazing and it tastes so good. And there's something bad in the kitchen, but it's completely clean back there. I love it when if the whole kind of, you know, air quotes point of the mystery is the vibes here are off. The fact that immediately can sell how off the vibes are, no better job than being like, the place is disgusting, it probably has rats somewhere, the food is incredible, and the kitchen is clean. It almost makes me feel like, yeah, there is something wrong here, because now all my alarm bells are going off. One of my favorite side characters in this one is the former like manager, like a character named Jennifer Olsen. And like, you can talk to her about experiences at Lottaburger. And I love her quote, because she's just like, I'm not saying the Lottaburger is cursed. That's obviously ridiculous. I'm not even saying that Deep Lake is cursed. I just don't think that places can be cursed. But air? Of course the air can be cursed. And hun, I think the air in Deep Lake has been cursed for a long, long time. And nothing eats up air like a fast food kitchen ventilation system. I loved that quote so much. And there's one clue that made me laugh, which was just, the clue was just a book called The Secret History of Lottaburger, an unauthorized guide. It's my favorite.
We all need that kind of thing. I mean, and another thing that was a good tie-in, I mean, like, you know, that helped tie the mystery together was the key that you're given to, you know, for everybody to use, obviously mechanically from the diary. The key of satisfaction. I mean, like, right there, the name is just like, you know, we're talking about like, you know, food nostalgia and enjoying yourself at it. No matter how disgusting this place looks, you still enjoy yourself. But then the key itself is each latchkey narrates a flashback to a tense family meal. I mean,
Brings it back to that emotional place of the latchkeys,
Yes.
right? That's
Yes.
always a good move. Before we leave Lilac Street Lottaburger, I do want to say a couple things. One, this was submitted by Morgan Jackson. Really loving that. There's a lot of people who enter the contest who I don't know, and I love that. I love that. Like, I've never met some of these people. I hope I get a chance to meet them. But Morgan Jackson, congratulations! And also, I want to say before we leave this one, as a Texan, I am here to tell you that Whataburger, which is clearly the inspiration for the name, is a completely mid-ass hamburger. And
no, Lottaburger is its own thing. Lottaburger is not Whataburger. There is actually a new Mexican chain called Lottaburger.
Oh, there is. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, nevertheless, Whataburger's mid as fuck, so don't buy the hype. All right. Let's go. I can't wait. I intentionally stir this up on Twitter like every 6 months or so. I love getting the Whataburger defenders jump into my replies and call me a hater. All right, now you can jump into my YouTube comments and call me a hater. Before we move on, Ollie, did you want to have any closing thoughts on Dog Told Me To? And I've got you muted, sorry.
No, I think I'm good. I lost my flow there.
Okay, all right.
But it was great.
It was great.
One thing I was going to say was I really appreciated the joke of the killer being called Benji, which is like a comic dog.
Yeah.
Just a cute thing.
Very good. Yeah, awesome. Okay. Well, Alex, what is your spotlight pick?
Cut to Christmas.
Cut to Christmas. I was really surprised this one didn't place or win, to be honest. I thought I was like, when I was reading it, I was like, oh, this feels like a winner to me. But yeah, it's really good. So tell us about it.
Cut to Christmas is it is the most unique mystery by far. It is, well, okay. The introduction to it is presented as a script that the keeper is reading, a screenplay. I wrote The King in Shadows, so like I immediately loved this fact. But yeah, it is narrating like, fade in interior, narrating the Latchkey family for their holiday, Christmas gathering. Papa Latchkey, played by Bill Murray, appears before the family and presents all of this, like this fun, wholesome Christmas family thing of getting ready for watching, horror movies from the local Blockbuster and blah, 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 and stop. And everyone is just like, hold on. The keeper pauses, looks at everyone, and then continues the narration normally. But everyone wakes up from this Technicolor dream of being in an icy, chromatic desert, hurtling through a pure white nimbus. And like everyone instantly remembers like they woke up in this place, and also their house suddenly looks like Kevin McAllister's home from Home Alone, and they remember hearing some like Christmas in July stuff before they went to bed on the radio from some like local couples, and when they've woken up, they're in a Christmas movie. It is July, like, but there's snow outside, and they've been transported to an alternate reality somehow, and basically the mystery is figuring out like, where are we, what has happened to us, and then and resolving it from there. Like, if you've been trapped in this alternate reality, this entity who's wearing Bill Murray's face that calls himself Papa Latchkey, like, how can we get him to free us from this hostage situation we're suddenly in? But if we're not in this other weird alternate reality, like, what ritual has been enacted to summon this cinematic alteration into our own? It's so weird and wild, and I love it because it leans into the Christmas movie theme. This fully changes the rules of how the game normally works, because there isn't like a day night phase cycle per se. All of the locations in this mystery, like a screenplay, have times of day attached to them, and that's what utilizes the moves you're in. Like, interior, the Latchkey family mansion, or exterior, the streets, night, interior, night, like of all these different places. It is similar to why I like Dwayne's World. One of the things that like hooked me into this one was that it is very weird and funny and clearly referencing a lot of things, but it still keeps the horror, because even though these all these different locations you can go to in these moments, like one of the moments is a split screen shot that shows the Latchkey doing whatever they're doing, but the other is now just someone is wielding a machete, just like walking around. What? It is so creepy, and just the fact that the danger is Bill Murray, like wearing Bill Murray's face again. The comedy is there, but it has like all this room for being like really creepy. And just in general, like the clues are, one of my favorite clues from the list was like unusually specific wedding vows, but like that's just a fun clue. There is one more detail from this mystery that like I think everyone gets like a gift, I think, that like they're not allowed to open. Well, if they do open it, something happens before Christmas Day. But it's kind of just like this little like, box with a red button in it, like open if you dare.
This one is so it's such a big swing, right? This is another one. This was the other one when I was reading it. I immediately knew who wrote it. The author is Ben Bisogno, and Ben always takes big gigantic swings in his game writing, right? Like he goes for like this maximalist sort of thing, right? And I personally love it. Like, this would require a lot of like editorial, right, if it was going to be published, but it's so enticing. It feels like this wild fever dream. It it feels almost like you know how sometimes you have a dream and your dream like takes in like bits and pieces of TV shows and movies and people you know and kind of blends them all together. That's kind of what's going on here, right? You've got a little bit of like Scrooged and Groundhog Day with the Bill Murray. You've got like it has actors as the side characters, you know, like it's cast. And then it's in the Kevin McAllister house. Like it just has this like, and then like it's got all this like kind of, you know, the sort of like meta TV production thing to it, which is so public access. It's a big swing. There's a lot going on, but it all kind of it hangs together. Like I think it hangs together surprisingly well, despite the fact that it is it's a real creative reach. Mads Raleigh?
Um, yeah, I just loved it's just so rich cinematically. Again, I mean, like you can picture all these things because he's provided like the cast of characters literally. But then it's also rich mechanically because of all the layers of specials. You have keeper reactions, you have all the different keys that are smattered around within the mystery itself. I mean, not just key, there it is, many keys. And then you also have like I think it's a condition like spirit of the season, so it's like very on point. So you're living this Christmas TV movie and again it feels episodic and yet like very movie like because it encompasses so much. So I mean, yes, I mean, like, Ben also wrote the Nutcracker threat for the Between. So yeah, I mean, like, he's all about the the Christmas horror. And so I mean, I was not surprised to hear that he was the one writing this. So I mean, there's just so much going on in this to love. I mean, even if you just concentrate on like, just an aspect of it, I mean, like, it definitely has a lot going for it. I think one of the things that like, brought it down for me, like it rated lower than the runner up and winner, was because there's so much going on. I mean, it needs a bit more structure, I think, because if you have somebody that loves to, see the analog horror and is playing public access or any card from Brindlewood game for the first time, this could be overwhelming. I mean, like,
It's a
granted, I mean,
lot. Yeah, it's a lot.
it's a lovely amount of a lot. I mean, it is rich. I mean, intense. But for that reason, it could scare off, somebody new to CFB games and public access, just because it's like, whoa, what do I do with this? It's like having a feast like placed down in front of them when all they wanted was a salad. So
It
that's
almost
kind of
feels
like
like I could almost see it as like you've finished the public access campaign entirely, and we're
yes,
gonna do this almost sweep mystery style. We're gonna do this like after the fact. We're gonna play
right.
this, as a little like kind of coda to the season or whatever, the series or whatever, because the Bill Murray character, the Papa Latchkey, he's almost like a big band type character, right? Which is really interesting. So yeah, this is definitely like it would be a lot to throw in a play group, and I think the play group is going to have some familiarity with like not even just this game, but like with like just narrative style play and being able to like kind of you know kind of keep all these narrative plates spinning is going to be a big thing. I think it holds together really well, and if nothing else, it is a huge swing, and you have to admire the creativity of it. Like I don't think we're doing it justice talking about it here, but like you have to go look at it, viewers. Ali, any thoughts on Cut to Christmas?
Yeah, I'm unfortunately one of the people that it didn't work for.
Yeah.
But for exactly the reasons you're saying, because it is such a big swing, it is definitely admirable. But I felt a bit suffocated by all of the just the sheer amount of stuff that's on there. I think the way that it works is, as you say, you play it as a coda and you play it as the public access Christmas special. Maybe even when you haven't, not part of your main campaign, just like picking it up again as Christmas, and you do that, and I think then it can really work. I think the clues, as Alex said, were great. There's a polar bear wanders Deep Lake. There is a pack of dogs of all varieties pulling an empty sleigh, which is so sad and so weird. It's very Lynchian. I think there's lots of great stuff here, but there is a lot of great stuff there, and I felt just like the tiniest bit pummeled. I think that's also because I'd read like 34 of these. So it's like film critics often criticize for being like too cynical about movies, but they watch movies in a way you're not meant to. And I think because we're judging this contest, we don't like. I read a lot, and then this is a lot on top of a lot. But as you say, admirable, clearly.
Yeah, I think this is hard to do in the middle of a campaign. I think you could absolutely do it though as a coda. It would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, the idea of doing it as a public access Christmas special is really fun. And I think one thing that this mystery might benefit from, like an addition, would be specifically pulling from Brindlewood Bay for like the cozy vignettes of literally doing, here is your stop motion Christmas opening title sequence for the special that everyone can narrate, and just lean into the weirdness and let it even be more like Christmas special feeling.
Yeah. Well, Ben's game writing offerings always have spirited debates. That's what makes him a great writer, I think, because his stuff is always like very like polarizing. It can be, and this is a great example of that. But anyway, love it. Cut to Christmas. Let's go to my creator spotlight picks. I've picked 2 mysteries that I want to spotlight, and I kind of want to spotlight them kind of for the same reason. They both are hitting something for me that I've been kind of looking for in the mysteries, which is some really clear 80s and 90s horror and pop culture references, but then public accessified. And these 2 things that I've picked really, really do that. Like they ping a lot of the right, like sort of nostalgia things for me and sort of retro horror things for me. The first one I want to spotlight is Welcome to Radio Lot. Welcome to Radio Lot is, I believe that's by Binar. Let me confirm.
Yes, it is.
It is indeed. Welcome to Radio Lot. This is so basically this mystery is about a Radio Shack style store that opened up in 1991 in Deep Lake, Radio Lot. And it has what was at the time a lot of like cutting edge electronics. It's this, cutting edge electronics store. And basically, people have gone missing over the years, which is a classic thing to happen in Deep Lake. And the latchkeys get kind of called in because they, if I remember correctly, somebody who's knows somebody who went missing approaches the latchkeys, kind of a classic setup as far as that goes. And they believe that Radio Lot, has something to do with it. Radio Lot is abandoned at this point. It's no longer in business, but it's basically just been left kind of how it was, more or less, when it was abandoned and closed down. I love this mystery for a lot of different reasons. I have some notes. Let me get my notes out. For starters, like I said, it does tap into a certain type of nostalgia. It has a lot of, there was this like period in 80s horror, especially when people were trying to like ride the slasher boom, but they needed to find a different angle that wasn't just like a guy, in a forest with a machete, killing teenagers. And so filmmakers were trying different things. Like they were doing like, Freddy Krueger's the most successful of trying to like mix up the formula, right? Make it something different. But you also got like things, that kind of like had like technology as a touchstone. So like Maximum Overdrive, not strictly a slasher, but a horror movie, is one of those. There was that one
Chopping Mall,
the robot in the mall. Like you had this kind of thing. And Welcome to Radio Lot captures that particular vein of horror really well, because this place, you are like, it's like the danger is like electricity. It's like electricity, and the store itself can like change its layout and stuff. And so it's got some of those kind of cosmic weirdness vibes, but really truly it's about just like electronics, like trying to fry you, and that's a lot of fun. And that is a very, very 80s horror kind of like thing. So I really love that about it. It also taps into like something that was just really, as a kid in the early 90s and late 80s and early 90s, I recognize this place. I recognize the strip mall that Radio Lot is in. I recognize the alley. I recognize the back storage room. I recognize the general layout of things, the way that the employees like act and behave, or are meant to have acted and behaved. It just has so many of these like it really understands its it's what it's going for. Its vibe, its sort of particular 80s and 90s like kind of aesthetic, retail aesthetic. Really, really love that about it as well. And yeah, it also it probably helps that I had just finished reading a short story by Adam Cesare called Zero Lives Remaining, which is basically this story but in an arcade. It's all the same types of things going on, and so I think that was another reason why it kind of pinged for me. The key is really good. I need to go pull it up real fast, but I remember liking it. The key of the circuit. Each latchkey must recall a gadget they desperately wanted as a kid but never got. I mean, talk about, this game hooking into your childhood, and like the things that you inexplicably like have held on to from childhood. This is one of those things, right? Everyone can remember the gadget that mom and dad didn't buy them, but either because it was too expensive or they didn't want you to have it or whatever. And so, yeah, just really, really, this one just hits so many like sort of memories, and I really, really love that. Lots of classic characters like the pesky security guards, the employee training video thing at the end of the Odyssey tape. If you watch the Odyssey tape there, pitch perfect because we've all sat through those videos, right? Just really good stuff. I enjoyed this one quite a lot. It just captures a certain feeling of working retail. It captures a certain 80s and 90s retail aesthetic. Really, really, really dug it. Oh, and the rewards. This one had the best rewards of all the entries, in my opinion. There is one that is a Walkman featuring your favorite cassette from your teen years. Again, it invites the player to like delve back into their own past in a sort of way. Novelty license plates. It's got all these like little tacky Radio Shack gewgaws as rewards. It's really, really just on point. Do you all have any thoughts on Welcome to Radio Lot?
Basically, I think I'm just looking at my notes now too. So for whatever reason, and I had only played this particular game once. It kind of gave me like Unknown Army vibes. And it was
I can see
just like,
that.
yeah, it was just kind of like the surreal horror in like, present time and modern day. So that was immediately a vibe that I liked a lot. There's the whole, again, nostalgia with the gadgets. I felt like it was giving me some Tales from the Dark Side TV show vibes too, because I mean of the whole like haunted object type of thing. I mean, granted, it's like, like all across the board, it's like electricity trying to fry you, but still, I mean, like with that key of the gadget that you really wanted, but you couldn't have, and then like wanting this thing wanting to spread its influence. I mean, that's essentially the point of the show of Tales from the Dark Side too. So I was remembering that kind of sphere as well. And there's like some interesting clues for this. I mean, a floppy disk melted and unusable with the label New Protocols, or Polaroids, or human bones. I mean, like just all these little things that just come up in the clues and the characters. Yeah, it's like all these different people that oh my gosh. Yeah, here's a good quote from CC Cypress, a hairstylist. Watch your step, sugar. There you go. Sorry about the mess. My wall outlet stopped working. I'm surviving on extension cords and a prayer over here. Stuff like that. I mean, just such good stuff. So I really enjoyed this mystery.
Yeah, it has like a
Actually,
layer of like camp that is really delightful.
I love the a small doll made out of twisted electrical wires as well, which almost takes it into like
Folk horror. Yeah, it does.
It's like folk horror, but like folk horror via folk art. That kind of like stuff made out of junk, which I love, and the novelty license plate where you have to ask someone else what it says. It's, yeah, just some top drawer like 90s-ness to it.
That folk horror smashed up with the modern, we would be remiss to not mention the fact that Binar is a performer on the Silverses audio drama podcast.
Okay, that makes sense.
As Brother Faulkner. Yeah, that's yeah. Alex, any thoughts?
Oh yeah, like I love a mall as a setting, as in a strip mall is such a great location to have this at, because emphasizing once more just the open air kind of beating desert heat and the evil that's literally just a pane of glass and an air conditioning unit away from you, like, is so cool, and the clues, there are some great folk horror ones, but one of my favorite was it's a slightly melted pager that's still working, showing the message, "Did you meet quota?" Like, it's really scary. But then also you have an ornate sharp obsidian knife that you just find. What is that? Why is this here? It's so creepy and fun, and I agree with Matt 100% about the quotes. There is so much personality that like really sells it, because but yeah, I mean, like similar to Escondido Street, of like just figuring out like there's an evil here, but like this is less about like, oh, you know what happened here, blah blah, figuring out like why is it active again, what specifically is going on here to cause it to be doing this. Really kind of emphasizes, like, I feel like the whole like what makes this horror like really feel kind of like small scale, but also like reaching, of like something is stirring in the radio lot, something is afoot. And yeah, it's a very good location thread, like small scale, big implications.
Yeah, I love it. My second spotlight pick is I have to imagine this was one of the more controversial selection or entries of all the entries, just from a read of it. I really love it myself. This is like easily in my top 3 or 4 of the entries. And that is the Great DeGoya County Cook-Off. The Great DeGoya County Cook-Off was written by, I wish I'd done a better job having these names ready. Let's see here. By Sasha Afranian Dow again. The Great DeGoya County Cook-Off. Okay, so here's the deal. Basically, it's a chili cook-off taking place at this hotel and convention center, and it's the sort of like New Mexico wide chili cook-off thing. But also, there's a cannibal cult at the cook-off, and I think the questions that the Latchkeys are, well, so it actually has a really, really interesting introduction. I think it's worth pointing out here. This introduction, the Latchkeys are at the chili cook-off, but they actually have the mystery laid out to them by Big Man. Big Man like tells them straight away, there's a cult. They're called the Disciples of like Flesh or something like that. And they are doing bad shit. And we got to figure out what's going on here. And then Big Man himself like fucking dissolves and is like destroyed or something, at the end of it. Like it's almost like a burn after reading, like, kind of introduction to the mystery. You can't do this mystery until you're at least in layer 3 of the campaign, and that's a really smart move, which I'll talk about in a minute, why. But yeah, the Great DeGoya County Cook-Off, it is like the Radio Lot one. It is tapping into a really particular type of horror subgenre, and one that was a thing in the 80s. This has got obviously Texas Chainsaw vibes, but also it's got a little bit of Hills Have Eyes vibes. It's got big Motel Hell vibes. This idea of like, there's a lot of humor, like it's quite funny. And that humor is laid on top of this really, really gross situation of like chili made of people. I mean, it's just so, it's so vile, but so hilarious. And I just found myself really drawn into it. It just speaks to so many things that I love in horror, that I don't always get to do in my gaming, but that when I can get away with it, I do. It is really fabulous. And I love that it was locked behind layer 3 as a special rule, because kind of like Cut to Christmas, this is a lot. You could not do this mystery right away in your campaign. It would totally derail the tone and vibe of your campaign if you did this early. And furthermore, locking it behind layer 3 allows you to use Big Man in this interesting way of presenting the mystery. I mean, basically, you get to the question of like, who is this cannibal? Who are these cannibal cult and what's their deal? Because Big Man tells you there is a cannibal cult and they're doing this, right? That you get to kind of cut out all of like, there's like no pretense or no, there's no like, what's really going on here? Like, there's a fucking cannibal cult at this chili cook-off, and get to figuring out what they want and how we can stop them or join them. And I just loved it. It's so funny. It's so grotesque. It's very well written. I was into it all the whole way. I have a feeling I know why it wasn't picked as a runner-up or winner, though. It's because of its intensity and because it might have a slight playability issue because of that. I actually have some thoughts on that, but I do want to get just the thoughts of the judges on this one.
Yeah, so I mean, I had brought up when we were doing the voting on the mysteries. I mean, I loved this one because of the level of detail, because of the writing, just the descriptions. I mean, like, things are very well laid out in this particular mystery. I mean, the moments are just so descriptive. And then I don't want to read it out because it's like you already have the content warnings in the beginning of this mystery. I mean, I'm just going to read them out just because, I mean, if you are, again, new to this type of play, and if you have a group when you're going over safety lines and veils with like, cannibalism is a line, it's the first thing on the content warning: cannibalism, autophagia, self-harm, body horror, dental horror, insect horror, gore, and harm to animals. It might be a little bit of a playability issue. So I'm very interested to hear what you have to say to get kind of like work around that, Jason. But again, I really did enjoy this because moments were wonderful. The dangers were very descriptive, and like, you could, as a keeper, you have so much to pardon the pun, but meat to delve into here. It's beautiful. I mean, the custom move, Feast of Corpus Inferni. I mean, clear all the conditions, mark the condition avatar of she that feeds. Oh boy, you're going to be like representing this entity. Yay. I mean, it's, again, the humor is there, and you can do the humor and the horror in all these different layers. I mean, it's up to the table, like how much of the level of intensity that they want to have for description or just sheer grisliness, I suppose. But again, a lot to love about this particular mystery. It's just the little playability
It's
issue.
a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, when I think about playability, I think about it more in terms of like, are there just like mechanics that don't work, or does the questions and opportunities not quite work? But I take the basic point of like, this would just be a really hard mystery to include in your campaign, even though you can, the modular nature of the campaign lets you just pick and choose whatever you want. And for that reason alone, I would publish it, because like people can just not play it if they don't want to play it. There's lots of other mysteries to choose from. But even if you wanted to run it, you would have kind of an issue of making it work. Like, I think there's a real danger of it, like almost like derailing like the campaign a little bit, because it's so intense and over the top. Cut to Christmas has that problem as well, but it's not even really a problem, because I think it's a problem looking for a solution. I have a solution.
Yeah,
but I mean, yeah.
It was basically like if you start off like with your touchstones for like public access as a whole for your campaign, but then this switches it into like a completely different touchstone, a completely different movie or TV show, whatever. I mean, that's where like the shift could mess it up a little bit.
Well, we have that a little bit in the core mysteries in the official game. So like, we have one of them that's gated behind layer 4, which is the convergence, and it's gated behind layer 4 for this exact reason, because it adds and directly interacts with so much like bigger lore, and you just can't have that super early in the campaign, or it's going to feel off kilter. Alex and Ollie, any thoughts on this just before I talk about what I would like to do with this?
Yeah, this was my favorite one. I loved this. I loved how intense it was. I loved how, even though, as we're saying, it's a lot, but it's focused. Like even to the point that this is, I think, the only one I've seen where Big Man says, "Here is a thing. Go do a thing." Adorable dog. And there's that great quote about Sycorax at the end, but all of the clues, like a severed finger emerges in a bubbling bowl of chili, crude dolls made out of bone, fragments of bone in a meat grinder. It's so exactly what it wants to be the whole way through. Very heavily Texas Chainsaw 2 influenced, but that's no bad thing at all. I do agree that this is not something that you could have early on at all, because it changes the tone, because we don't kind of have that tone elsewhere in public access. But B, I suspect the characters would just get the fuck out of town. Like I don't think they're hanging.
Yeah, like why
around.
would you hang out? Like that's the thing. Like the characters have to keep wanting to be in Deep Lake, right? And
Yeah.
this conflicts with that, right, in a big way. Alex, any
This
thoughts?
has. Oh, I was going to say briefly that this has the vibes of an episode of a TV show that was showed once and then never shown again.
Oh yeah, it's that one X-Files episode, Home.
Yes.
It's that, right? Yeah. It's exactly that, you know. Alex,
I
any
love that
thoughts?
episode. Oh yeah. I only feel a slight pang of shame that I happen to be voraciously hungry right now as we're talking about this mystery. No joke. I have not eaten breakfast yet. And I'm smelling chili. I loved this mystery so much. We deliberated a long time because we were like, this was so close to like ranking like real high. It just we kind of had to, you know, we were deliberating over it. I love it. Like it is so like gross and grindhousey. And like I know that for like my main play groups, this would not be an issue. Like I could lean fully into what makes this disgusting with my groups, and that, you know, it's individualistic. But like the big man monologue, as someone who loves to role play big man,
It's so good. Yeah,
so
it's
good.
good.
It had me like right away. But like the fact that like suddenly like, oh, like he turns and says like "Begone, Sycorax," and I like quoting the Tempest now. Like, okay, great, love this. This is so big man. I forget who you said wrote this, but like whoever, you know, who wrote this had such a great understanding of like what makes big man awesome as like a character this late in the campaign. And as I've said to you a lot of times at the retreat when we spoke about this, the fact that you can resolve this mystery by challenging the cult leader to a chili cook-off to become the leader of a cannibal cult is the greatest thing. It's so good. And also, I know for a fact that if this were in Signals, Jazzy would be having a ball with this one, making Ashley a cannibal probably. And yeah, the Feast of Corpus Inferni, like when you eat human flesh, you get, it's a move that triggers with all that. Absolutely fantastic. And one of my favorite moments, I think, written like anywhere ever, has come from this one. And it's so funny, but also it's terrifying. It's a moment that can only happen during the night phase. The doors of the convention center lock as hideous laughter and the rev of a chainsaw echo nearby. So good. It's now you're in Texas Chainsaw. Just suddenly, I am giggling at the thought of a chase scene through the dim, spacious hallways of a Marriott convention center as I'm being chased by someone with a chainsaw. Really funny, but also genuinely scary. Yeah.
And that rule is called the Feast of 10,000 Teeth as well, which is just, it's a wonderful phrasing.
Yes.
Let me tell you what I would do with this one. What I would do with this one. So something we talked about at the retreat is we talked about the possibility of expanding and keeping the campaign going by basically doing what are essentially prologue stories or side stories. So you would meet a character or find a particular location or clue in the main public access campaign, and then you would have like a side mystery that tells the history of that thing. And so you would play like 4 pre-made characters and just play this one mystery with these 4 pre-made characters. I could absolutely see this chili cook-off scenario being where you just cut and you have these 4 characters from other parts of New Mexico who have come to participate in the chili cook-off, and they get confronted by maybe not Big Man, but by some other Big Man-like entity that tells them all this stuff about the cult, and then you play that out. And the way that the Latchkeys learn about this is through there's a character in this one who is called he's like an investigator character. Where's his name? Abraham Rosenthal, who figures prominently in this particular mystery. I can imagine like present day Abraham Rosenthal just mentioning casually his involvement in this like incident with the chili cook-off back in 1998 or whatever. And then that would be the lead in to seeing that sort of like little side story. So that, I think that's how you could do it and it not disrupt the tone of the main campaign. I may be approaching the author with that idea, but we'll see. But in any case, that's my thoughts of like how I would do it. And I really loved it. And those were my 2 spotlight picks. Let's go ahead and move on to the runner-up and the winner of the mystery track. Now, the runner-up of the mystery entries is my personal favorite from the contest. I like the winner as well a lot, but the one that you chose as the runner-up was my absolute favorite of the entries, and that is Pale Horse by Kevin McHugh. Alex, why don't you summarize what Pale Horse is about?
Pale Horse is carrying over from possibly carrying over from Slumber Party Summoning Circle. Linnea Rodenbecker, if she's still alive, has approaches. Well, okay, let me start back. Basically, it's on the news that there was another fatal, like, car fatality that happened in town recently, and it's causing this spread of people to recollect this old street racing ring back from the 80s that was a real problem in Deep Lake. And yeah, Linnea Rodenbecker, if she's still alive, there are things in the mystery for replacing her with another character if she's not. She shows up, or this other character shows up, and the spirit of a famous Deep Lake street racer named Kate Burnside has been visiting this person, and had been telling stories of her exploits and bragged that she could even outrace Death. And Death, back in the summer of '86, was a racer that showed up, possibly in a gray Ford Mustang, and raced this stranger who is Death and Kate raced on the Mercado Street circuit near this old power plant that was abandoned in the '60s, and Kate's car crashed, and this mysterious racer across the finish line, and that pale gray Mustang was never seen again. Kate, her spirit is involved in this resurrection of the street racing ring that's kind of come back up, and people are dying again. And Linnea remembers being in a car, the very pale gray Mustang that was chasing her, and Kate's spirit is just like, help, it's coming for me. And Death is on the road, literally. The mysteries about this street race where how did Kate escape the other side of the afterlife, or what is happening? How is she being pulled back into a world? What is going on there? And yeah, it's Fast and Furious with death and ghosts.
I loved it. It was so good. It's the coolest entry to me. It really, really captures this. It feels very Americana, which is kind of fun. It does have those Fast and Furious vibes, but it's also got you imagine movies from the 1950s of racing for pinks or whatever. It's got that whole thing going on too. It's just very effortlessly cool. The characters are cool. The quotes are great. There's just so much love and detail in this one. I really, really dug it. Mads and Ollie and Alex, why'd you pick this as your runner-up?
Oh my God, this had so much heart to it. I mean, just the whole, harkening back to what's essentially taking a mythic quality of the crash of '86 and then racing against death. I mean, how fucking cool is that? And it just it has the horror element to it, yes. But I mean, I just felt like I was also seeing a possible, I don't know, just, well, I mean, I'm always big onto four horsemen of the apocalypse. So as soon as it was mentioned in here, it's oh, death, the fourth horseman of the apocalypse. I'm oh, I'm there. I'm totally there. And then the moments are fantastic. I mean, here's one that I thought was particularly just, I have no words, I swear to God. This has plenty of words, and this was the words were wonderful. You find yourself short of breath, and a car is struggling sluggishly nearby. As your lungs burn for air, its supercharger finally opens up. The sound is like a person's first gasp for air after holding their breath for a long time. It is the most delicious breath of air you have ever taken. It's oh my God. I mean, so writing like that is all throughout this thing. And again, I felt like it had a lot of heart, even though it's could be scary as shit. And then there's a custom move that the latchkeys can share, a track of It's called Unfinished Business. I mean, again, it's just like it has like this character arc uh bits in it that just speak to the latchkeys as a whole, as well as like tying them into past history that they share, or like that they may remember, or that is just mythic in quality because of the characters and
It has a
the
mythic
entities in it.
quality. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the word I was kind of looking for earlier. It's got this like Americana mythic quality to it, and it's really dope. Ollie, Alex?
Yeah, I this mystery has, I think, literally my favorite Odyssey tape VCR location prompt ever. Because all the mysteries had great, like, oh, if you watch an Odyssey tape here, this happens. And we talk about this a lot as judges. This is the coolest use of it. If you watch an Odyssey tape in the control room of the old power plant, there is there's a prompt, a new prompt that shows a driving safety PSA, buckle up, DeGoya, that shows a side character from your present day in the car with death, with the Pale Rider, strapped as they're like zooming and racing down the road. And the next morning, you find out that character is just died in their sleep, just out of nowhere. And then during Layer 4, the Night of the Bone Wolves, the home invasion scenario, the pale Mustang revs up, returns, and like shows up, parks outside 26 Rodenbecker, and that dead side character gets out of the car to help you during the Night of the Bone Wolves. It is the funniest, coolest moment I could possibly think of. And I said this to both Mads and Ollie, which is, that is such a Vin Diesel Fast and Furious moment. Just gets out of the car, just like, family, it's just like, it's so cool. I freaked out over that. It was awesome. I love it so much. And also, since this is, all these like Brindlewood universe games, this is in that greater kind of like, Brindlewood verse, or Brindleverse, as we've kind of said on the Discord. The idea that the Inevitable from from El Paso just gets into street racing in the 80s, real funny to me. Really love that for them.
I love that for them too. Ollie, what are
Have to
your
do
thoughts on this
something
one?
after millennia. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, that one moment of the character coming back, I think, is what kind of tipped it over the edge for all of us, because it's such a great moment. And when you were saying about it being mythic as well, I was going to use the word iconography to describe it, which I feel kind of like ties in with that, like the iconography of death as a Mustang. It's just beautiful, and you can picture it, you can just see it immediately going down the road.
Yeah, we're having the audio issue again, but we can hear you well enough to get the gist of what you're saying. Yeah, love that. It's so good. One thing I really liked about this one is that I'm always a big fan of like when the writer of a game text clearly understands how to support the GM and the players, and this does that in so many cool ways. I don't know anything about cars, but I'm super excited about this car mystery. And part of the reason is because Kevin has made it like it has all the information you need. It's got lists of cars that you can use in, if a race breaks out. It's got like just enough like kind of car detail to where you can sell it at the table convincingly, even if you have no interest or knowledge of cars, right? And so I think it really speaks to the fact that the quality of this and the structure and the writing from a game standpoint, that I don't care about cars at all, but I absolutely want to run this mystery. It's like super cool.
It's worthy shouting out that Kevin provided media references for this as well.
Yes,
which is great. And just to say, like, if I believe this is Kevin's first ever CFB foray.
It is.
Interesting. Okay.
Never written for CFB before,
Yeah.
and great job.
Yes.
Phenomenally so.
Yeah, Kevin's super active in the Discord, so I was really delighted to see. His entry get picked here.
He's currently in one of my between campaigns, so so he's really into Car from Brindlewood.
Oh, there's also like I wanted to highlight one of the clues. This mixtape clue, such a good clue. Let me find it. It's Yeah, so
I
like
think
you
it's
get
the
the
first one.
you get the clue. Yeah, it's this like mixtape clue or whatever for this like principal character Kate. But then every player has to name a 70s or 80s power anthem for the mixtape. I just kind of love that. You know, it's just another way of like doing what public access loves to do, which is to like touch those like kind of those nostalgic bones in our body.
And
Really,
he's
really
also
dug that.
provided a music for your own PA mixtape, which is
Yeah,
another
yeah.
sweet bonus for this mystery.
It's so, so cool. Any other thoughts on Pale Horse before we go announce the winner?
Yeah, I just wanted to say about the custom move, which Mads mentioned a minute ago, which is unfinished business, where if the keeper narrates your death, you can escape it by saying that you have unfinished business, and you push through sheer force, luck, or will. And I think that actually the fact that you can avoid death via that way, and specifically death, makes it that little bit scarier than the standard marking a I forget what they're called in this, but the marking a branch.
Oh, the keys, yeah, yeah.
The keys, thank you. Yeah, because it focuses it so like directly on the fact that it's death you're avoiding, and death is here, and it has that kind of final destination elements to it. I just think it's a really like not creepy in the same way that a lot of public access is, but just kind of like that more kind of like heart pounding terror. I think it does really well.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, well, congratulations to Kevin for being the runner-up on the mystery portion. Let's go ahead and announce our winner of the mystery portion of the contest. Let me grab the name first of who wrote it, so I'm not tripping over that like I've been doing all day. Okay, let's see here. Okay, the winner of the mysteries in the public access writing contest is On Strange Wings by Raymond Rich. I think you all picked a good one. I like this one a lot. It's loads of fun. Alex, summarize On Strange Wings.
On Strange Wings is a cryptid mystery for the Degoya County region. For the everyone in the town in this area for Degoya County knows about these winged cryptids that are in the region. The few can agree on what they are, but everyone knows where they come from. Los ojos de los muertos. They are like mounds outside in the desert with labyrinthine caverns deep below the earth, vast underground networks, reservoirs of oil, old necropolises, the literal gates of hell. Depends on who you ask what's down there. And the Deep Lake Devils, as they're known, the stories have been around for a while. Some are, some take a more whimsical bent. You blame them for things like being like tardy or distracted driving, acts of petty vandalism. It's the Deep Lake Devils, and then 1 week ago, livestock around Degoya County start turning up with strange wounds that some could say look like bite marks. And some are even saying that some of them are being completely exsanguinated. And the Degoya County Open Bull Riding competition is coming up. There are accusations of sabotage going around, but the whole, Watch the Skies crowd are also coming out of the woodwork. There are something going on here, and the latchkeys have heard their own claims, dubious or something like that, about what's going on with these cryptids. But like, these monsters are real, and in some way, but the real question is, are they terrestrial? Are they like undiscovered creatures of this world, or are they aliens, or are they from some other dimension that influences how you deal with them? Point is, there are monsters in Degoya County.
We had 3 judging criteria: sort of creativity, writing quality, and playability. And I think of all the entries, this one maxes out on all 3 points the most. Like, it hits all 3. And so I think that's why I think it's a great choice to win the contest. And from a creativity standpoint, what I loved about this one is it clearly knows its references, right? Like, it is absolutely doing Tremors, right? Like it's doing Tremors. It's doing this sort of like late 80s, early 90s, like kind of monster, monster movie thing. It's got that level of like kind of oddballs and humor, like oddball characters and funny stuff that goes with that. It knows all that, and yet it is still its own distinct thing, and it's still very clearly a part of the setting of Degoya County and Deep Lake, right? So I really like that about it. The writing is exceptional, and you could grab this one and start playing it tomorrow. Like it's ready to go. Judges, why was this your winner?
I mean, again, the writing was like, hit like all facets. It's very descriptive. I mean, and it does pull on to the setting itself of New Mexico. Los Ojos de los Muertos, like many caverns of New Mexico show signs of past human habitation, whether it's potherds or petroglyphs. I mean, like, again, it's got an immersive quality to just the locations. I mean, like Last Chance Gas, there's a very specific paragraph about like these phrases put together: flickering fluorescent light tubes. I mean, pair of garage bays, betray some sign of life. I mean, bare bones mini mart. I mean, like, all these little details that just kind of pull together and give you these solid pictures of these places that you can play in, creates the environment, gives you like a very complete feel to it. And then same for the people that live here. I mean, again, it just doesn't stop at like 3 descriptives and then just kind of goes. I mean, just the 3 descriptives and then gives a backstory, like a tiny little backstory, so you can embody these characters as well. And then the moments and the dangers and the clues. I mean, like, some of these things are just if as specific as a gas station receipt having the word chupacabra on it, to an empty grave, not as shallow as one would expect. So simple, but also very rich in detail.
There's a clue where it's a bunch of blood bags with zodiac signs, like divided up by zodiac sign. Love that clue. Such a good clue. Or like the clue that's like a star chart registry or a star registry, like you have a star registered in the name of a latchkey, I believe, which is pretty wild. Love it. Alex, Ollie, thoughts?
I thought this had like the strongest locations of any of the mysteries that we read. It really sold like the desert setting of it, because I mean we have nothing comparable to the desert over here. We have wars, but then nowhere near the same. The strangeness of it and the vastness of it really came across with stuff like the Last Chance Gas and the quirkiness of the Desert Museum. It just sold the whole thing really well, sold the setting. And it kind of expands it outside of the town as well, which I think is a cool thing to do. It's kind of like your road trip outside of Deep Lake itself.
Yeah, the locations and characters are so evocative.
Yeah, we really deliberated, like, because like, Pale Horse and this one were like real neck and neck. We thought about it for a while. And the reason why this one came out on top is exactly what Ollie's saying, the desert setting. This is a mystery that emphasizes the desert, like the scope of what is outside of the inhabited portions of Degoya County, the fringes, and being able to go underground beneath these mounds, Los Ojos de los Muertos, and exploring a location called the Bone Pit is like this is a setting defining mystery. It makes it feel like the desert is a character, and I love the question for this most of all because if you decide that these Deep Lake Devils are terrestrial creatures, it's not the question is not how do you defeat them, or it is what can you offer them to barter for peace? Which I love that the resolution is now being rooted in how can you coexist with these things, with the land itself. Very much feels in keeping with the broader scope of the campaign. The Latchkeys engaging with the weirdness of the desert, not necessarily of a how do we quell it, but how do we live alongside it? How do we make this work? Sort of kind of trying to keep a balance with the weirdness and the, air quotes at that point, normal. It ultimately just, and as you said, Jason, this felt like, yep, I can run this now. It's ready to go. It is ready to play. It is right up there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Just want to point out, like, the one quote that I pulled from it in my notes that pretty much encompasses how we feel about this game, about this mystery. The devils are indeed in the details.
Indeed. I love this one a lot for all the reasons you all have said. It is a fabulous choice to win the contest because it just hits all of the criteria so well. And one thing I'll point out too is I can tell that the author understands public access, right? Like they understand what the game is about. They understand how to make it, like they have incorporated elements of the rules really seamlessly into their mystery, and like they touch on different parts of the rules and different parts of the setting in a cool way. It just shows that they're very well versed in what public access is and what it's doing, and I have to admire that as the creator of the game. It's just, yeah, well written, ready to go. It's fantastic mystery. I agree that, like for me it was between like Pale Horse, the Chili Cook-Off, and this one of like the tops, and I'm glad we at least got a chance to talk about all of those. So that's really exciting.
We spent a long time debating over those.
Yeah.
We totally
Yeah.
did. Holy cow.
Well, any closing thoughts before we go? We all feeling good? We've been going for a while, so my dog is super restless right now. So hopefully, yeah, she's like, you're done. Well, this is over. I know it's almost now. She's settling down. Weirdly enough. Any other closing thoughts or anything we want to say? Yeah.
Just thanks and appreciation for all of the people who made the effort and just gave us such great stories. Yeah, I mean, stories and scenarios to read. I mean, it was a tough decision. I mean, like, we had our lists, we had our own individual, like, way of scoring and all this kind of stuff. And then just trying to find a chord for like our top picks and just debate them out. I mean, like, it took a little while. And I'm so appreciative of like all this great writing that people, regardless of whether you got like mentioned like as a spotlight pick or winner or runner up, there's still some great stuff out there that people have posted in writing contests that people could try out and run as a play test. Who knows? Who cares? I mean, like, if you like the premise of that particular mystery, just go for it and then be inspired to write your own stuff. Because yeah, I mean, again, I love CFB games, so hell yeah. I mean, like, add to the Brindleverse, like add your stamp on the Brindleverse and have fun with this. This is the reason that we play these games, we write these games, is because we want to have fun.
Hear, 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 hear. I want to express my thanks to the three of you on behalf of not just myself, but also the community for doing the work of reading and judging the contest entries. And yeah, echoing a lot of like what Mads said, if you're watching this or if you participated in the contest, you have so much to be proud of. Like this is, this has always been just a thing for like sort of like personal development and fun, and obviously there are prizes and there's things that we mentioned on this little Zoom call, and we're excited for those people. But really truly, like just the fact that you like took the time to like engage with the game in this way, I think is super cool. As the creator of the game, it's very like touching to me that you've seen something in the game that you think is worth engaging with in that way, right? And so I really love it. And I just want to express my appreciation for it and do future contests, right? Like, this, a big thing in the Gauntlet has always been like kind of encouraging people to do game writing, right? Like anybody can do game writing. There's nothing about, there's no reason why you can't give it a shot and give it a try. And I was so happy to see so many new faces and so many new people like participating in this one. And it was just delightful. And yeah, you just, and also it's no small thing to like put your thing out there in the world to be looked at by other people too, right? Like that's a big thing, right? To like write something, like do creative writing and just like let the world, our small corner of the world, but let people kind of see it and comment about it. Like that takes a lot of guts, and so you should feel very proud about that as well. I don't think I have anything else to say, and so we will wave goodbye to people watching this. Congratulations again to everybody who got a spotlight pick or won or placed. Bye.